have those big, sexy launches. What? None of this is by accident. Oh my gosh, I was hooked. If you're watching this and maybe you've tried to launch one of your products or services on Instagram and social media or your email list, and you felt like either A, you got crickets, or B, it just didn't go as planned, keep watching because I'm going to break down the different steps. We've broken it into 4 easy steps for you to have a successful launch. If you're new here, hello. My name is Amanda Kolbye, and I am a business coach and online educator for service-based entrepreneurs, helping them build and monetize their personal brand on social media. On this channel, you're going to find tons of content about marketing, sales, entrepreneurship, and also the digital nomad lifestyle because I also happen to travel the world full time. So the first launch that I launched a group program and I made over $12,000. So when this happened, this was only a few months into my business and I was like, what? Like, oh my gosh, I was hooked because you're able to generate such large cash injections and amount of sales in your business in a short amount of time. Since then, I've gone on to have 50K launches, 100K launches, 120K launches, like well beyond, but none of this is by accident. And so I promise this is also not an overnight success. It's all been very intentional because of the things I'm going to talk to you about in this video. And if this is a topic that you're really interested in, such as building courses, selling passively, and launching your products live, I also talk a lot about this topic on my podcast, Laptop Lifestyle Podcast, where I actually have an episode that goes even more in depth into launching. And so you can find that at the link below. Okay, so step number 1 is actually planning out the launch. And this might seem a little bit obvious, but let's dive into what this actually means because this is so crucial to you doing everything else. So the first thing we're going to start with is some goals. It's really hard to feel like we had a successful launch because successful doesn't necessarily just mean the most money possible if we don't know exactly what we're measuring. So identify some goals, and some of these can be really big, like how many people you want to purchase your course or your program, how much sales you want to make. But some of these can also be micro that are going to start getting into like our data analytics of fine tuning and improving all of our different strategies here. So for example, if you run a webinar, we may have a certain goal of getting X amount of people signed up for the webinar if we know our certain conversion rate so that we can estimate if I get 800 people signed up for the webinar and I have an X amount conversion rate, then I'll get the purchasing amount of people that I need. So all of these things will start to come together, but they're also going to be based on the pieces of the puzzle that you're choosing to utilize in your launch strategy. So what I mean by this, and this is part of the planning period, is determining which marketing strategies, which marketing platforms, and which tactics you're going to be incorporating for this specific launch. Because this is going to be based on you, your audience, your product, and also just what you might want to try out this time. So for example, you may incorporate a webinar, you may incorporate a wait list where you're having people get onto an email list in like a holding container and maybe they get exclusive access or discounts first. You may even do a beta test or like an early launch where it's not really this full-on launch where every single day you're selling and you're on social media, but maybe it's just behind the scenes getting some people in. And if it's a new offer and if we're going to beta test it, then we're going to be able to get some clarity, get some testimonials, and use that for the live launch later on. So there's a lot of different pieces that you can analyze and determine if you want those to be planned in your launch. From there, after we've determined what we want to incorporate, you're going to need to map out that timeline, as well as what actually needs to be created to support you along this journey. So for example, if your launch and you want to have a sales page, then you need to make that sales page beforehand. So that's going to involve some design, maybe some tech, and some copywriting. You may have some of this already created, or you may be creating it from scratch. You also may have a team, or you may be doing it yourself. Either way, we want to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row because when we get to the actual launch itself, it's not the time for you to be putting everything together. It's the time for you to be having conversations, making sales, being in that full energy of being like, yo, I am selling this thing and it is the best thing in the world, okay? We don't want to be behind the scenes messing with all of this other stuff. So one way that we do this entire planning process is in ClickUp. So if you haven't heard of ClickUp, I'm obsessed, to put it bluntly, but it's a project management tool and I use it for literally everything in my business. You can check out this video up here where I actually walk you through a semi-tutorial, but also in depth of how we use ClickUp in my business and some good ideas for you. Okay, so step number 2 is what I'm going to call the warm-up period. So this is arguably the most important part of the launch. I'm going to say that again. This is the most important part of the launch, not the launch itself. When you're like, cart open, come buy my thing, okay? The reason why is because people don't just out of the blue see you say, hey, it's open, and then they're like, great, I'm gonna buy that thing, right? That's just unfortunately not how it works. And so in order to make sales easy, in order for people to be primed and ready to buy, where they were like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting to buy this, yes, please give me the link, right? That's what we want. In order for that to happen, you have to prime your audience. You have to get them, take them along a mental journey, start to overcome their objections, start to really build that know, like, and trust factor with them, and the brand awareness surrounding the offer that you're creating and the topic of the offer that you're going to be selling, so that by the time you get to the sales period, which is that launch week or launch period where you're like live, that they are ready to buy. So I always tell all of my clients that good marketing makes sales effortless. So in this warm-up period, we want to be just dousing our audience with so much value and giving them really great, juicy content that is very specific to in relation to the offer. So we should be overcoming their objections. We should be filling an education gap based on where they're at and where they need to be to make this purchasing decision. We should be really helping them see our viewpoint of how important the thing is that we're selling and why they should prioritize it, why it's so valuable. So all of these pieces are going to be communicated via our social media and our content. The other thing to note is in the planning period, you chose what platforms you're going to be using in your launch. So for example, if you're going to be using email marketing in your launch, which by the way is really great, you should use it. We want to make sure that the first time we're emailing our audience isn't when we're saying, hey, come buy my thing, right? Reciprocity here, we wanted to start giving them value so they feel like they want to give back or purchase from us. So you need to get your audience used to opening your emails and clicking links inside of your emails, or vice versa. If you are selling mostly on Instagram or another platform, make sure that the consistency is there and that you're almost training your audience to respond and take the actions that you want to take before you get to the sales period. Because when you're in a sales period, people's guard goes up a little bit. Last thing that you want to do in this warm-up period is start teasing the offer. So especially if it's a new offer, you don't want the first time people are hearing the name of the offer and all about it to be the day that it launches, okay? So we want to start teasing, letting people know about it, maybe even letting them know the name, letting them know it's coming, and really building that hype and that excitement for the offer. Also, you'll want to start sharing some testimonials. So this is where you can either get beta testers to test out your offer early to get some testimonials from there, or if this is a repeat offer, then we're going to want to make sure that almost every single week we are showing those testimonials to start to really intrigue people and show that social proof in what we are going to be selling. Now, if you have not started your email list, or maybe you've like kind of started it, but it's a little bit dead right now, and you really want to start getting all of these juicy leads in front of you that are spot on and targeted for this offer, one of the best ways to do that is with a freebie. So making sure that this freebie is in alignment with the offer you're going to be selling and starting to promote that freebie anywhere from 1 to 3 months or even more before you're doing that launch. So if you want to learn more about creating a really targeted freebie and starting to get people on your email list, check out this video here where I break it all down for you. Also, if you're sitting here and you don't actually have an offer yet, or maybe you're still kind of figuring out how to create your course or your program or whatever it is that you're launching, you can also check out this video here where I break down creating an online course and starting to incorporate some of that passive income into your business, which, spoiler alert, building passive income in the online course goes hand in hand with live launching. So make sure to watch that video too. Okay, so step number 3 is going to be a hype event. So what a hype event is essentially where you are doing 2 things. 1, you're showing your expertise and you're helping your audience get a win. Secondly, you're getting your audience into an emotionally high state where they are excited and they are ready to make a purchasing decision based off that emotional high, okay? So what a hype event actually is typically a webinar or a challenge of sorts or some sort of live stream on social media. So you can execute this in any way that you want. Some people do a 3-day challenge or a 5-day challenge or just a typical 1-hour webinar. So you can decide which one you think is gonna work best for the type of information that you're going to be covering in that sort of hype event, and also for the relationship that you have with your audience and where you think they might be in a best learning setting. So here's the key that you need to know about your hype event. Your hype event, like I said, should really show your expertise that is leading to your offer. So we want to give them kind of like a bite size of what they're going to get in either working with you with your coaching if you're selling that, or your group program or your course or whatever it is. But we also want to give them a quick win so that even if they don't buy from us, they're leaving being like, wow, that was awesome. Amanda's awesome. Like, I want to come back to her, because even if they don't buy now, they might buy in the future. So think about, based on the offer that you're selling, what does your audience need to know, do, or have in order to be ready for that next step? So you could also use this hype event as almost like a stepping stone to get your audience ready for your offer. The last thing that you need to know about this hype event is I want you to promote this like you are selling it, okay? So typically, before you go into launch mode, you're going to want to promote the hype event itself for 1 to 2 weeks, and then have the hype event happen in relatively close time frame to the launch, or even on the first day of the launch, so that again, you're captivating people off of that emotional high. All right, step number 4 is the launch. So this may be a week long, this may be 3 days long, some launches may even be longer than that. You're gonna have to determine the length of your launch window where you're actively selling based on the offer that you have and the price point of the offer, as well as how warm your audience is and how much decision-making time they're gonna need to be able to purchase. The other thing you might consider is, are you having an offer where there's a certain limited number of spots, or maybe there is only a certain time frame that they're able to purchase this, or is the launch window just an exclusive discount but they can purchase this at any time? You need to create some sort of urgency within this launch time frame, in addition to a heightened sales setting where every day you're selling way more than you usually are, as well as that heightened emotional state. Now, it's important to remember that when you're in this launch period, no matter who you are, no matter how much you plan, things are going to need to be adjusted, and it's kind of this dance with your audience. So if you're hearing all these objections in your DMs, scrap the plan that you have, scrap the content that you planned, address those objections that you're hearing on a story, on a live, on an email, something to your audience. So it's a mixture of really listening and being in tune, and that's why it's so important to have everything done ahead of time so that you can be super present with your audience during this sales period and really protect and share your energy. It's very normal to have lulls in launches where there's a lot of sales and then like no sales for a certain period of time. So that's super normal. So maintain your energy. Remember that it's not over until it's over, and really focus on relationships and not being afraid to sell to the people that have been sitting in front of you and that you've been warming up for this period. It's really important to track your leads as well, so that you're not just going into this launch period blindly, and that you've been tracking and knowing who are your warmest leads that are super ready to buy from you. So those are the 4 stages of having a successful launch with your online group program or course or any of your service-based offers. I encourage you to follow me on Instagram if you don't already, here at Amanda Kolbye, where you can check out all of this stuff that I'm talking about that I'm doing in real life. While I'm not launching every single day, I do launch a lot of different types of offers very often, and you can see all of this stuff in action. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us creating more content for you, and check out some of these other videos here where you can learn more and dig into more topics on marketing and social media and all things building your business.